The professionals who are getting the most out of AI tools right now are not the youngest people in the room. They're the ones with the most accumulated expertise. Not the fastest typers, not the most digitally native, not the ones who grew up with a smartphone in hand, the ones with the deepest domain knowledge. If that surprises you, and if you've been carrying a quiet assumption that AI is something you're already behind on, something that belongs to a generation that isn't yours, what this video is going to show you is going to reframe that assumption completely. Because the fear most experienced professionals have about AI has the logic exactly backwards. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why, and you're going to have a specific, concrete picture of where to start. 3 things this video covers: why the professionals with the deepest experience have a structural advantage with these tools, which tools are actually worth your attention, and how to take the first move without starting over. Now let's start with the myth and why it's wrong. Here is the myth. Stated plainly, AI belongs to digital natives. The people who will benefit most are the ones who grew up in digital environments, who learned to code before they learned to drive, who have never known a professional world without these tools. If you've been navigating this transition for a while, there's a reasonable chance some version of that story has been running in the background, quietly, persistently, producing the specific anxiety of someone watching a train leave a station they thought they had a ticket for. That story is structurally false. And the mechanism that makes it false is worth understanding precisely because it changes everything about how you see your own position. Here is how these tools actually work. You give the model a prompt, a question, a task, a request. The model generates a response. And the quality of that response is almost entirely determined by the quality of what you put in. This is not a minor technical detail. It is the central fact about AI that most of the coverage gets wrong. Generalist input produces generalist output. A 26-year-old analyst with 2 years of experience asking an AI to analyze a market can get a competent, plausible-sounding response. It will use the right vocabulary. It will have a reasonable structure. And it will be missing every insight that only comes from having been wrong in that market, corrected yourself, watched a cycle play out, and developed the judgment that can't be outsourced to a framework. Research on how domain expertise affects AI output quality is consistent on this point. The depth of the user's knowledge is the primary variable in the depth of the output. The tool doesn't know what it doesn't know. The expert does, which means the professionals who spend 30 years building genuine domain expertise, who can look at an AI-generated analysis and immediately identify what it got right, what it missed, and what it couldn't possibly understand without context. Those professionals are not behind. They are ahead. In a specific and measurable way. That is the mechanism. Now the question is, which tools are worth applying it to? The AI landscape is loud. New tools launch weekly. The content about those tools is written almost entirely for people who are trying to build skills they don't yet have. That is not your situation. Your situation is different. You have decades of expertise and a specific professional goal: staying visible, staying relevant, and continuing to contribute in ways that are worth something to someone. So the question isn't, what is AI? The question is, which tools serve that goal directly? 3 categories, each one anchored to what you already know. The first is AI-assisted writing and drafting. Not AI writing for you, AI helping you structure and communicate what you already know. Here is the distinction that matters. Asking an AI to write a LinkedIn post about supply chain risk is going to produce something generic. But asking an AI to help you turn the 3-paragraph email you just drafted, the one containing 30 years of hard-won judgment, into something concise and shareable? That is a different conversation entirely. The expertise is yours. The tool handles the structure and the polish. This is where experienced professionals immediately outperform generalist users. You are not asking the model to know things. You are asking it to help you communicate things you already know. That is a fundamentally different and more powerful use. The second is AI-assisted research and synthesis. Finding information, comparing positions, summarizing developments in your field. What used to require a junior researcher or 3 hours of manual reading now takes 15 minutes. But here is what makes this category specifically valuable for someone with your background. You will immediately know whether the synthesis is right. You will catch the gaps. You will recognize when the model has missed a nuance that changes the entire conclusion. That quality control function, the ability to evaluate output rather than just accept it, is expertise. and it is precisely what most AI users don't have. The third is AI for professional visibility. Specifically, using these tools to create content that demonstrates your expertise publicly. Drafting thought leadership posts. Summarizing a framework you've used for 20 years into something shareable. Turning a career's worth of judgment into content that makes your expertise visible to the people who need it. This is where the tool meets the platform. Now let's look at something that makes all of this concrete. There's an analogy worth sitting with. AI is not the expert in the room. It is the fastest research assistant anyone has ever had. It reads everything, it retrieves instantly, it drafts without fatigue, it synthesizes without complaint. It is extraordinary at the mechanical work of information processing. And research assistants, no matter how capable, are only as useful as the person they're assisting. A research assistant working for someone with 2 years of experience will produce output that reflects 2 years of experience. The same research assistant, given direction by someone with 35 years of domain knowledge, will produce something categorically different. Because the person directing the work knows what questions to ask, what answers to reject, and what the output is actually for. This is the specific advantage that most AI content refuses to name directly. The expertise advantage is not just real. It is the primary differentiator between someone who uses AI and someone who uses AI well. The model will produce a plausible answer to almost any question. Plausible is not the same as right. And the ability to tell the difference, to look at a confident, well-structured, professionally formatted response and identify the flaw in its logic or the gap in its context, that ability is not built in 6 months. It is built in 30 years. There is a second fear underneath the first one that deserves to be named. The fear isn't just, I don't know how to use these tools. The fear is, AI is replacing expertise. And if that's true, then the 35 years I spent becoming an expert at something means less than I thought. That fear is understandable. It is also wrong in a specific and important way. AI is not replacing expertise. AI is exposing which expertise is real. Generic knowledge, the kind that can be summarized in a textbook or retrieved from a search, is being compressed. But judgment, pattern recognition, the ability to read a situation and know what the data isn't telling you, that has never been more valuable, because it is precisely what the tool cannot produce on its own. The professionals who are going to find AI genuinely disorienting are the ones whose work was always primarily about information retrieval and assembly. The professionals whose work was always primarily about judgment, about knowing what to do with the information, are in an entirely different position. That is you. If the next step after this is making that expertise visible, putting it in a place where the people who need it can actually find it, there's a specific resource in the description built for exactly that. It's a LinkedIn kit designed for professionals navigating this transition. Templates, a walkthrough, and a positioning framework for updating a profile that reflects who you are now, not just who you were. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. So let's turn to where to begin. The question this video opened with was whether you're behind. The answer is no, but the answer only becomes useful if it leads somewhere concrete. Here is where to start. 3 moves. Each one small enough to do this week, specific enough to produce something real. The first move, open an AI writing tool. The most widely available is free, takes less than a minute to access, and ask it one question from your professional domain, not a vague question, a precise one, the kind of question you would have answered without hesitation at the height of your career. Read the response. You will notice 2 things immediately. First, it will be competent. Second, you will see exactly where it's wrong, incomplete, or missing the nuance that changes the conclusion. That recognition, that ability to evaluate the output, is your expertise operating. That is the tool working the way it's supposed to work, with you in the position of the expert who knows what to do with what it produces. The second move, use an AI tool to synthesize a current development in your field. Ask it to summarize the state of something you spent your career working inside. Read the summary. Annotate it. Note what it got right, what it oversimplified, what it missed entirely. This exercise does something specific. It makes your expertise visible to you. Not to anyone else yet, to you. Most professionals in this transition have spent months or years doubting whether their knowledge still counts. This exercise answers that question directly, because the gaps you identify in the AI's output are the exact places your expertise lies. The third move, Draft one piece of professional content, a LinkedIn post, a brief reflection, an observation about your field, using an AI tool to help structure it. Not to write it. To structure it, you supply the judgment. The tool handles the form. This move matters for a reason beyond the content itself. It puts your expertise in a place where it can be found. The consulting inquiry, the mentoring relationship, the advisory conversation, none of those can happen if you are invisible. One post, drafted from what you actually know, is the first step toward visibility that belongs to you. One last thing about the objection that may still be present. The one that says, "I've tried learning new technology before, and it didn't work." This is not a learning curve. It is a conversation. You are not being asked to understand the technical architecture behind these tools any more than you needed to understand the engineering of a telephone to use it effectively. You are being asked to talk to a very fast, very well-read assistant and to bring to that conversation the one thing it cannot have on its own. 35 years of knowing what you're talking about. If this video opened the question of where to deploy that expertise publicly, the LinkedIn kit in the description is the specific next step. A weekend's work to build a profile that reflects where you actually are now. Link is in the description and the pinned comment. What's the one area of your professional expertise where you would immediately catch what an AI got wrong? And what does that tell you about what you still have to offer? Here is what to carry out of this video. The restlessness you may have been feeling about AI, the quiet anxiety that the professional world has moved into a space that isn't yours anymore, was not evidence of obsolescence. It was the right instinct, pointing at the wrong conclusion. The right instinct. This matters. This is real. Something is shifting, and ignoring it is not an option. The wrong conclusion, that the shift is running against you. The professionals who have the most to lose from AI are the ones whose value was always primarily about information access, knowing things that other people couldn't easily find. That advantage compresses when the tool can retrieve anything in seconds. The professionals who have the most to gain are the ones whose value was always primarily about judgment. Knowing what to do with information, knowing when the confident answer is wrong, knowing what the data can't tell you without 30 years of context. That is a different kind of expertise. It has always been more valuable, and it has never been more specifically in demand. The expertise doesn't retire. Only the title does. What AI does is give that expertise a new mechanism, a faster research assistant, a drafting partner, a visibility tool, without requiring you to become a different kind of professional. You bring the judgment. The tool brings the speed. That combination, in the hands of someone who actually knows their domain, is not something a 26-year-old analyst with 2 years of experience can replicate. They can use the same tools. They cannot bring what you bring to them. So the question worth asking now is not whether you're behind. You're not behind. The question worth asking is, what does someone with your specific expertise, your specific network, and your specific judgment, now equipped with the fastest research assistant in professional history, actually do next? That question has an answer, and you're closer to it than you were 20 minutes ago.